Hello, Mr. Pinkett. My name is Courtney Powell. I am a junior marketing major from the University of the District of Columbia. I want to say thank you for coming today. I followed you for a while, and I have a signed copy of your Campus CEO book for a few years, and it's very informative. My question is, since you and your colleagues were students when you first started, how did you develop the expertise in your consulting business that clients would find valuable? And how did you get clients to trust you as students enough to pay you for the work that you wanted to do?
It's a good question. Your name again?
Courtney Powell.
Courtney. Good question, Courtney. So the first business that we started was actually a training and development company for students. We were training other students. We would do seminars much like what you've seen over the course of the past few days. So in that instance, our credibility was relatively straightforward. We were convincing clients that we understood the market and the client. So to more get to your question, when we started the technology firm, I run a technology company now, information technology. Many of us went out and worked full-time jobs and gained experience in corporate America. I've got my three partners, one worked at Merck, one worked at Lucent, and one worked at Merrill Lynch. Some of us went and got PhDs. Jeff has a PhD from Georgia Tech. I have a PhD from MIT. So we got a combination of work experience and educational experience, and that gave us the expertise to do the actual consulting work that we do now. I would argue that we probably would have had a much harder time starting the technology venture when we were early in our careers. Getting the experience and the education that positioned us to be able to launch that second venture, which was IT. Okay.
Question in the back? Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Loic Anago from Grambling State University, Louisiana.
Grambling. Represent.
My question is about diversity. Having the opportunity to go overseas and get education, how were you able to bring that and relate that to your entrepreneurship and being a CEO?
Well, let me just say this. I strongly recommend that if you haven't already, as soon as possible, that you get out of this country, get out of America. Be it junior year abroad, for those of you early on, be it semester at sea, it could be a vacation outside of the US, but getting out of the US is such an enriching experience. And for me, I had never left the US before I went to Oxford. And were it not for having won the Rhodes Scholarship, I probably would have still been confined to the US, but going overseas to England, and it could have been Australia, it could have been China, it could have been anywhere outside the US, it just broadened my horizons incredibly. Along three lines. Number one, seeing America from a perspective outside of America, and seeing the good and the bad, which the international community is not hesitant to tell you. Second is being an African American outside of America, and seeing the diaspora in its true context. Now, when I was at Oxford, there were 15,000 students. Hear me, 100 black students. It's less than 1%. And of those 100, 5 African Americans, 5 blacks from America. So I was a minority within a minority. I'm talking about spades. They're like, what? What's spades? Like, we're gonna play such and such. I'm like, I've never heard of that. Okay, we'll teach you. Okay, cool. And then third and finally was, as a businessman, to your question, it truly enabled me to see this as a global marketplace and not just a US marketplace. That it just broke down my psychological barriers, thinking that the UK or China is really that far. I mean, it is far, of course, from a distance standpoint, but with technology and innovation and the like, it's not that far. How many of you have left the country, by show of hands, already? Great, great. For those who didn't raise their hands, hopefully they'll have the opportunity to do so soon. So the answer to the question is it has broadened my horizons to see the opportunity to do business on a much broader scale, which I had never really thought about leading up to that point.
Good morning, Mr. Pinkett. My name is Lawrence Washington. I'm from the Tennessee State University.
The Tennessee State University.
Tennessee State University.
It's like the Ohio State University.
I've been following you for a while, and I remember you on The Apprentice, and at the finale, after you were hired, Mr. Trump asked you, did you want to also hire the other finalists? And it seemed like you're already expecting that question that was being posed to you. So why did you make that decision? Because you said that this is not The Apprentice, this is The Apprentice. I remember that vividly.
How many folks saw the finale of My Apprentice? All right. Those that didn't see it, And I don't presume everybody watches The Apprentice or watches reality TV. I'm not that egotistical. The Apprentice's 18 candidates compete every week. Every week somebody's fired, eliminated, and then there's 2 finalists. So in my finale, against my competitor, I was season 4 of The Apprentice. I was hired. Trump said, you saw the video, said, you're hired. I got up and did my dance, I'm high-fiving. Suit, I did my pose for the camera and the whole gamut. And then Trump says, Randal. Brings me back to the boardroom table. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? He says, do you want to share the title with your competitor? I said, are you kidding me? And let me just say this. And I say this with all humility. You're going to think as they said, I'm not an egotist. Now they're going to think I'm an egotist. I say it with all humility. It was not a close competition. I was head and shoulders above my adversary. I had an undefeated record. She had a losing record. I had a winning team record. She had a losing team record. And here, get this. I had 5 degrees. She had 1. I mean, check this. The final task was a charity fundraiser. You raise funds for the charity. I raised $15,000 in a day. She raised $0. She should have been fired for that. So now he's telling me, do you want to share the title? I'm like, absolutely not. Well, I said, this is not The Apprentice, it's The Apprentice. There's no 2 winners, there's 1 winner. You told me it's 1 winner. So why are we having this conversation? And I took heat for that. People said I was selfish, I was a sore winner. Who does this guy think he is? Or who does this black guy think he is? And my answer then is no different than now. Why did I say what I said? Because I earned the title, that's why. I earned it. Never be afraid to stand up for what you believe in. And what would it have said to my daughter for her to look back on that finale and see her dad do everything right, get the right grades, go to the right schools, play by the rules, have an undefeated record, and say, okay, you can share the title. I want her to say, no, my dad said, no, he earned it and he's not sharing anything. I should have pulled his hair off his head at that moment. I'm sorry. Let me tell you too, the opening to Black Faces in White Places is the retelling of the finale from The Apprentice. Verbatim, word for word transcript and what was going through my mind, because that was my Black Faces in White Places moment. And was I ready for it? There were rumors he was going to do it. I was ready for it, and I said to myself, there's only 2 ways I'm walking away from this boardroom table. Way number 1 is the sole winner. Way number 2 is if he presses me to share it, I was going to tell him, I quit, Mr. Trump, you're fired. And I'm not lying, that was exactly what I was ready to say.
Good morning, Dr. Pinkett. My name is Cynthia Dees from Prairie View University. And my question is, honestly, I want to be like Oprah, but I want to be better than Oprah. I want to do all the things Oprah didn't do. So what do you say to people who kind of has a subconscious fear in their head to do something that's already been done, but try to do it better? Because, that's a hard thing to do, to beat something that's already done if you can't create something new.
No, I'm with you. I say the following. Never look at anything or anyone and believe that it cannot be accomplished. Because the minute you do that, there's a great saying that the great figures among us are ordinary people who've done extraordinary things. The minute you look at Oprah or Barack Obama, the minute you look at anyone and say to yourself, I can't exceed their accomplishments, you not only do a disservice to their life and their legacy because they've lived their life to inspire you to exceed their accomplishments, but you also diminish your own ability as an ordinary person to do extraordinary things. I'll give you a real quick story. How many of you know Dr. Mae Jemison? Okay, Dr. Mae Jemison was the first black woman to go into outer space on the shuttle. And when she was a child, she grew up in the 1960s, the adults, her family, the black folk around her, when she told them, I want to be an astronaut, they told her, what makes you think we're going to let a black girl go into space? And I heard her give a speech in New Jersey. She said she never allowed them to silence the voice that lived within her that told her she could be an astronaut. And I believe that voice lives in all of us. There's a little voice when you're a child that tells you you can do anything. And then you get older and grown folk come in and say, oh, you can't do that. Oh, you'll never do that. What makes you think that you can accomplish that? And we actually listen to that nonsense. All I'm here to say is don't allow anything or anyone silence that voice. Because if you can embrace that voice from your childhood that told you could do anything and be anything, and not allow the influences of the world as a woman, as an African American, as a whatever you are, if you cannot allow the world to silence that voice, then you are poised for greatness. Let me tell you one more quick story. I went to a fundraiser for President Obama in Chicago. Early in the campaign, when he was still behind Hillary Clinton, before the primary, and he said that evening the following. I'll give it to you once word for word. He said to us, it was a bunch of black business owners, he said, I know some of you here tonight don't think I can do it. I know it. He said, but listen very closely. You will believe when you see me in January place my hand on the Bible and get sworn in as the 44th president of these United States. And guess what I said? Wait, guess what I said? I turned to the person next to me and I said, this guy really thinks he can win. That's what I said. But that says more about me than it does about him, because here I'm thinking, what makes you think America's going to elect a black president? And what happened? He got sworn in as the 44th president of these United States. And my lesson is, don't let anything or anyone, even what happened to me 2 years ago, don't let anybody allow you to go there. You got me? All right.
Pinkett. My name is Warren Deems, the fifth from the Tennessee State University, a senior biology major. Thank you. Thank you. With all your accolades, your successes, your achievements, your 5 degrees, Rhodes Scholar, CEO of this, that, and the third, how do you deal with all your achievements?
How do I deal with them?
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that? When you say deal.
What keeps you grounded?
What keeps me grounded? Okay.
Yes,
let's see. My faith keeps me grounded, first and foremost. I'm a man of God. Translate that into a business. I'm asking you to ask yourself the question, and in doing so, to dispel the following 3 myths. Myth number 1, that starting a business is risky. And guess what? It is. I'm not going to lie to you. But I would argue that having a job nowadays is risky too. Second myth is that you have to have somebody else's money to start a business. Nope. Let me give you the quick statistics. 80% of the capital for startup companies comes from the founders. 80%. Not from a bank, not from an investor, not from an angel, not from the government. It comes from the founders. Now, third myth. If you're like me, you're saying, okay, look, Randal, it comes from the founders. I'm broke. Because I was broke when I started my company. I was broke like a joke. I was real broke. This third statistic I'll give you is that 50% of successful businesses start with $20,000 or less. 1/3 of successful businesses start with $10,000 or less. And hear this, 10%. 1 out of every 10 successful companies starts with $1,000 or less.
That's me.
I was in the category of or less. I started with nothing. And I had no one in my family who could afford to give me anything. And in fact, had someone in my family given me anything, say my grandfather gave me $1,000, my grandfather would have been in the office every day saying, what are you doing with my money? When am I going to get it back? No, don't do that, do this to get me my money. I had nothing. My family had nothing. And so I had to go with the difficult route, which is what we call bootstrapping, where you have to basically take nothing, figure out how to convince clients to give you a contract, and then use some of the upfront money to fuel the growth of the company itself. Our first client, believe it or not, was a nonprofit called the National Action Council for Minorities in Engineering. Our second client was UNCF. It's our second client, working with HBCU students, believe it or not, 15, 20 years ago. So my point is the following. I had a dream, along with my 3 roommates in college, that we would one day be business owners, despite the fact that all of us had nothing. And I sit here before you today in 2010, 15 years after we had that dream on the campus of Rutgers University, and the 4 of us, all 4 black men, with nothing, we now sit at the helm of a multi-million-dollar consulting firm, the 4 of us. And so, if being in business as a new entrant is about making something out of nothing, being resourceful, as I described before, it can be done. It can be done. In fact, it's been done over the course of our community's history. And if there's any of you on the fence, they're out there thinking, well, maybe, maybe not, I don't know if it's for me, I can only say to you what Nike has been saying to years, just do it. Don't delay, don't deny, just do it. Third and final E, the entrepreneurs. I wanted to say this, and this is actually a lesson not just for the entrepreneurs. How many of you own a business now? This is my show of hands. How many of you actually have a business now? Okay, this is my last point. I'm going to get off the stage and maybe take questions. And again, this is a lesson not just for entrepreneurs, but for all of us. But I'm going to put it in the context of entrepreneurship. The message I can give to you as somebody who owns a business is the following. It is not the individual that is the metaphor of success. It is the team. It is the team. One of my favorite books is a book called Good to Great by a gentleman named Jim Collins. Shout out to those who read Good to Great. Awesome read. It is a bit of a study of what has differentiated good companies from great companies. When I say good, I don't mean bad companies. I mean companies that have performed very well versus the great companies that have outperformed the good companies. And one of the principles of being great in Collins' book is a principle that he describes as who and then what. Who and then what? What do I mean by that? The good leader, not the great leader, the good leader thinks what and then who. What should we be doing and then who can help us get there? Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. That makes sense to me. You think about what you want to do and then you think of who's going to help you get there. Does that make sense to you? It makes intuitive sense to me. Collins says, no, that's not how it works. The way it works is the great leader thinks who and then what? Who do I need on my team? And then once they're on the team, what should we be doing together? I'll give you an example. How many of you know Oprah Winfrey? Everybody know Oprah. Oh, yeah. Okay. How many know Oprah Winfrey? Raise your hand, you know Oprah Winfrey. Everybody raise their hand. You didn't raise your hand. Do you know Oprah in the gray suit? All right, there we go. Now I got you. You know the story. Oprah abused as a child, won the Miss Tennessee beauty pageant with the Tennessee State. I know Tennessee State's in the house. She caught the eye of her local radio producer, got her own radio show, then translated that into her television show. But all the while, Oprah was an employee, right? Worked for the radio station, worked for ABC with her Oprah Winfrey program. And so Oprah's going through her career, like you will go through your career, and she's thinking to herself, getting back to what's about passion and gifts, her passion is for helping people, her gift is communication. You know, Oprah used to interview the crows on the fence of her parents' home. She interviewed the crows, she used to interview her dolls too. Had a natural inclination toward being inquisitive and toward good communication. So Oprah's thinking to herself, I hate all of this business stuff. I hate the accounting, the operations, the back office. I don't like any of that. It's not my gift, it's not my passion. I don't want to do it. Who do I need on my team to do it? She finds a gentleman named Jeff Jacobs. How many people know Jeff Jacobs? I got one hand, two hands, three hands on Jeff Jacobs. She finds Jeff Jacobs. Jeff Jacobs was a lawyer. Says to Oprah, Oprah, I will handle all of it. I love it. That's my passion, that's my gift. Oprah thinks who first? Jacobs. Jacobs, it's all yours. The accounting, the back office, the administration, handle it all. I'll be the face of Harpo. You get it done behind the scenes. So now she gets the who piece down. Jacobs comes to Oprah and says, Oprah, I got an idea. She says, what? I think you can own the show. Go on the internet or go on your phone. And here's a direct quote from Oprah in response to what Jacob says. Oprah says, you're crazy. To Jacob, says, you're crazy. You can't own the show. Get out of here, man. Come on, go back to work. She says, Oprah, I can do it. Oprah says to Jacobs, if you do the deal, I'll give you 10% of Harpo. Folks' heads lit up on that one. So what happens? Jacobs does the deal, Oprah gives him 10%, and now Jacobs is quietly as wealthy as Oprah and nobody knows him. That's why I want to be wealthy and anonymous, you know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. That's what I want to be. Nobody comes looking for you, family can't track you down. And now today, because of Oprah's who and then what, she's the only person I know who puts herself on the cover of her own magazine and still sells out. That's a bad woman. That's a bad woman. and the only black woman billionaire on this planet. Why? Because she thought who first, and then what? So how does that synthesize all of what I've said for the employees, for the entrepreneurs, for the new entrants? The relationships that you're building in this room and on your campuses are priceless. You've got folk in this room who will go on to become corporate executives, multi-billion-dollar entrepreneurs, PhDs, MBAs, MDs, JDs, university professors, corporate executives, elected officials, pastors, doctors, lawyers, teachers, preachers, take your pick. All I'm saying to you is, keep these connections. Maintain these ties, these relationships, to Mark, to me, to each other. Because when we pull our energy together, when we pull our resources, when we pull our intellect together, when we pull our power together, we are unstoppable. Do you hear me? We are unstoppable. And it's finding the right combination of what you love to do, your passion, your gifts, combining it with somebody else's passion and their gifts, the things that you don't want to do that they love to do. When you can find that strength in numbers, you can do anything. You can do anything. My story is yet another testament. I've got 3 business partners who I met in college. We were all campus officers. We came in together, we studied together, we partied together, we graduated together, we got in trouble together. Now we're in a multi-billion-dollar business together. That's my message to you, is to maintain these connections, folks, because they will last you a long time. All right, let me close this out. The last thing I'm going to say, which also is a reflection of what I've said, let's talk about 3 E's. I talked to the employees and talked about how do you think about multiple streams of income and not just a job. I talked to the new entrants, talked about thinking in parallel about starting a business while also looking for jobs. Talk to the entrepreneurs, in fact to everyone, about the importance of building a team, not thinking individually. The last thing I'll say is this. I believe that the greatest asset, the greatest competitive advantage that you bring to the table, young people, are all the things that make you, you. That it is your culture, your ethnicity, your nationality, your gender, your religious background, all of those things that make you, you. Those are the very things that represent your greatest competitive advantage. That because of all the things that make you, you, you're able to see things that others can't see. You're able to do things others can't do, and because of your training at your campuses and through Thurgood Marshall, you're able to bring solutions that others can't bring. Russell Simmons wrote a book. I wrote this title down. He wrote a book. I'm gonna wrap this up. He wrote a book called, this is a long title, here's the title. He wrote a book called The 12 Laws to Access the Power in You to Achieve Happiness and Success. That's the name of the book. The 12 Laws to Access the Power in You to Achieve Happiness and Success. So he sent the book to Oprah. I don't know how Oprah keeps coming up. Sent the book to Oprah. Said, Oprah, what do you think? So I love the book, Russell, but you gotta make the title shorter. Russell says, okay, what do you suggest? Oprah says, I suggest the title, Do You. So all I'm here to say is, do you. Do what you do. Do what you do that you do well. Be yourself. Don't see your ethnicity as a liability. See it as an asset. That which can propel you, can sustain you, and can strengthen you. That you young people, you Thurgood Marshall scholars, you are the truth. You are the real deal. You are the proof that's in the pudding. You are the icing on the cake. You are too legit to quit, too strong to be wrong, too blessed to be stressed, and too anointed to be disappointed. You are the bomb. God bless you. And thank you for having me this morning.